I used to believe that walking every day was the key to staying young. It was simple advice, right? Get your steps in. Walk more, live longer. I followed it religiously until the day my knees said otherwise. That morning, I had just hit 9,000 steps before lunch. I felt proud until later that evening when I couldn't sleep because my joints ached, my lower back throbbed, and I felt strangely exhausted. Not the good kind of tired from moving, but a deep fatigue that lingered in my bones. And that's when I started asking, could I be overdoing it? Was I trying to be healthy in a way that was hurting me? If you're over 70 or caring for someone who is, this might sound familiar, because here's a truth we don't hear enough. Our bodies change with age. What was good at 40 may not be good at 75, but no one tells us that. And worse, we're often praised for pushing through, even when the signs are right there. Pain, fatigue, poor sleep, dizziness. So today, let's pause and have an honest talk. Not to scare anyone, not to say walking is bad, but to help you walk smart. Walk in a way that honors where your body is now, not where it used to be. In this video, we'll explore the real risks of walking too much or the wrong way after 70. How to recognize when your body is quietly telling you enough. And the simple science-backed changes you can make to move with ease, strength, and confidence. Because aging well isn't about doing more. It's about doing what works for you now. Before we begin, if you care about staying healthy and joyful in your later years, hit that subscribe button. This is where we talk real aging, wisely, warmly, and with care. Let's begin. 1. Walking a lot after age 70 can speed up the aging process. Let me share something I learned the hard way. More isn't always better, especially when it comes to movement after 70. I used to admire those folks who bragged about their 10,000 steps a day. That's the magic number, they'd say, holding up their fitness tracker like a badge of honor, and I believed it. So I walked, rain or shine, uphill, downhill. I'd get those steps in, no matter what. But here's the twist. My knees didn't care about the badge. Neither did my hips or my lower back. Over time, I noticed that instead of feeling energized, I felt drained. Instead of sleeping better, I tossed and turned. And instead of building strength, I was building tension. Tight calves, stiff joints, aching ankles. I thought I was doing something good for myself. Turns out, I was simply pushing too hard for the age I was at. I later came across a study, yes, one of those boring medical journals I never used to care about, but this one grabbed me. It said that walking beyond a certain number of steps, especially over 7,500 per day, could actually increase the risk of joint degeneration in older adults. That's right. More steps equals more wear. And then it clicked. Of course, at 45, your joints can handle impact. At 75, they're asking for mercy. Yet no one ever told me that. We're handed this one-size-fits-all advice, but age is not one size. Now, I want to be clear here. I'm not saying stop walking, not at all. In fact, gentle movement is one of the best things we can do as we age. But I am saying let's rethink the idea that more is always better. Let's shift the goal from most steps to smart steps. My neighbor Frank, for example, was the definition of discipline. 10,000 steps daily, no exceptions. At first, I admired him, but over time, he developed persistent knee pain. He pushed through it until one day he couldn't. His doctor told him that his joints were wearing down faster than they could recover. Then there's Eleanor down the block. She's 78. Instead of long walks, she breaks hers into 10-minute strolls, mixed with gentle stretching and some Tai Chi on her porch. She still moves every day, but she listens, and she glows. And between the two of them, I saw the difference. Not in speed, not in steps, but in how they felt. Some might argue that 10,000 steps is the gold standard. And yes, it might be for someone younger more conditioned, and not dealing with age-related joint changes. But for us, that number might be a myth, or worse, a trap. It took me a while to let go of that number. At first, it felt like failure, like I was giving up. But then I realized it wasn't about giving up at all. It was about tuning in, trusting my body more than my Fitbit. Since then, I've adopted a different rhythm. I walk because it feels good, not because a step counter tells me to. I stop when my body says stop. I stretch more. And most importantly, I've stopped seeing rest as weakness. And here's the beautiful part. I sleep better. I breathe easier. My joints, they thank me. So if you've been caught in the step count game like I was, maybe it's time to step back. Not to quit walking, but to walk with wisdom. Now you might be wondering, if I shouldn't follow the 10,000 steps rule, how do I know what's too much? That's a great question, because the body doesn't always shout when it's overworked. Sometimes it whispers, and that's exactly what we'll explore next. 2.5 signs you're walking wrong or overdoing it. One of the biggest lies I told myself was this: if I feel tired after walking, it just means I'm getting stronger. It sounds reasonable, right? No pain, no gain. We've all heard it. We've all believed it. But at some point, I started noticing something strange. I wasn't just tired, I was drained. And the fatigue didn't go away after a good night's sleep. It stuck with me. It made mornings feel heavier and evenings feel longer. That's when I realized there's a difference between healthy exertion and hidden exhaustion. It's not always easy to spot the line, especially when we've spent a lifetime pushing through. But after talking to doctors, reading, and most of all, listening to my own body, I started to notice the signs. Here's what I learned. If these show up in your day-to-day, they may be your body's way of saying, slow down, let's do this differently. 1. Your knees or ankles ache, not just during the walk, but hours later. A little soreness might be normal, but that deep, persistent ache, that's inflammation talking. It's your joints telling you they didn't recover well. 2. You feel worn out, even after short walks. Not the satisfied kind of tired, but a heavy, dull fatigue, especially if it happens even when you sleep well and eat right. That could be a sign your body's using up more energy than it can restore. 3. Your sleep suffers. This one surprised me. I thought walking would help me sleep better, but it turns out when I overdo it, my body stays in a stress state longer, and that stress messes with my sleep hormones. I would fall asleep and wake up 2 hours later, staring at the ceiling. 4. You feel dizzy, lightheaded, or off balance. I used to brush these off as just getting older, but they were actually signs my blood pressure was dropping after exertion, especially after walking longer or faster than usual. That's dangerous and not something to ignore. 5. You don't feel lifted after walking. You feel emotionally flat. Movement should give you a bit of joy, a sense of aliveness. If you walk and end up feeling low, irritable, or emotionally dull, it may be your body signaling hormonal imbalance or nervous system overload. Now, I want to pause here and say this. These signs don't mean you're weak. They mean you're wise enough to notice, because there's a difference between pushing your limits and ignoring your signals. One builds strength, the other breaks it. I remember Mary, a friend from our local walking group. She was 73, full of fire and discipline. She made sure to hit her 10,000 steps no matter what. But slowly her posture changed. Her face looked more tired. She joked that she felt 90 some days. Eventually, she admitted that her body was aching in places it never used to. But it was hard to let go of the number. It felt like failure. And then there's Charles. He's 75, walks every day too, but only 15 minutes, and only if his body feels up to it. Some days he adds a light breathing routine. Other days he simply stretches and sits outside with a cup of tea. You know what's amazing? His energy is steady, his sleep is peaceful, and his smile is easy. What I learned from watching both of them was this: Walking isn't just about moving forward, it's about checking in with yourself. We're not machines. We're not made to perform every day at the same level. We are human. We ebb and flow, especially in our 70s and beyond. And here's a gentle truth. Just because you can walk a certain distance doesn't always mean you should. If any of these signs feel familiar to you, I want you to know you're not alone. And there's nothing wrong with adjusting. In fact, that's exactly what makes aging graceful. The ability to adapt with kindness toward your own body. Take a moment to reflect. Which of these signs have you noticed lately? Leave a comment below and let's talk about it. Not just for you, but for everyone else who's quietly wondering the same. Because the more we share, the more we all grow stronger together. Now, if you're wondering what to do instead, how to keep moving in a way that feels good, not punishing, you're going to love what comes next. Alternative, exercise properly and listen to your body. So if walking too much or walking the wrong way can backfire, what should we do instead? I asked myself this question for weeks because the truth is, I didn't want to stop moving. I love being outside. I love the feeling of air on my face and the rhythm of my feet hitting the ground. But I also didn't want to keep waking up sore or feeling like every walk was a marathon I hadn't trained for. So I started experimenting. I scaled back, not because I was giving up, but because I wanted to see what my body actually liked. I swapped long walks for short ones. I added stretching. I tried some simple balance exercises I found online. And slowly I felt something shift. I didn't just feel less tired. I felt more alive. Here's what worked for me and what might work for you too. 1. Walk shorter, more often. Instead of one long 45-minute walk, I now walk for 10 to 15 minutes, 2 or 3 times a day. It's easier on the joints and gives me more chances to move gently throughout the day. Plus, I've found that I actually look forward to walking again because it doesn't feel like a chore. 2. Add some gentle stretching or flexibility work. Most of us don't realize how stiff we become until we try to bend down or twist. I started doing 5 minutes of stretching before my walks. Shoulder rolls, ankle circles, neck turns. It doesn't sound like much, but it made a world of difference. My gait feels smoother, my breathing feels freer. 3. Explore slow, intentional movement like Tai Chi or chair yoga. This was the game changer. I used to think Tai Chi was just waving your arms in slow motion, but when I tried it, I was surprised by how energized I felt after. My balance improved, my mood lifted, and most importantly, I stopped feeling like I had to push my body. I was finally working with it. Let me tell you about Steven. He's 80 and he used to walk fast and far until he slipped on a wet sidewalk and fractured his hip. Recovery was long, but during rehab, he discovered chair yoga. Now he practices every morning, followed by a slow 10-minute stroll in his garden. He says, "I don't walk for distance anymore. I walk for peace." And you can see it in his face. Calm, present, balanced. Then there's Teresa, 77, who starts her day with 10 minutes of deep breathing and gentle movement. She journals how she feels afterward. Some days she walks, some days she rests, but she always checks in with herself first. These aren't workouts in the traditional sense. They're rituals. Tiny moments of care we give our bodies, and the body responds with gratitude. Now I know someone out there might be thinking, but isn't less movement risky? Doesn't it lead to weakness? And that's a fair question, but here's what I've come to understand. It's not about less movement, it's about better movement. When we move with attention, with care, with rhythm, not force, our bodies heal faster. We don't just survive aging, we participate in it, we shape it. I used to treat exercise like a checklist. Did I walk today? Check. Now it's more like a question. How do I feel today? What kind of movement would nourish me right now? That shift from performance to presence has changed everything. I feel more grounded, more confident, and honestly, more connected to myself than I've felt in years. And if you're wondering, can I really make this change? Isn't it too late? Let me say this clearly. It's never too late to move differently. It's never too late to treat your body more kindly. In fact, now is the perfect time. In the next section, I want to help you get even better at this. Because the real magic starts not just when you move better, but when you learn to listen better. Your body is already speaking. Let's learn how to hear it. 4. How to recognize your limits. Don't miss the silent signals. One of the most powerful things I've learned after 70 isn't about what I do. It's about what I notice. You see, for most of my life, I treated my body like a tool. I gave it orders. Walk this far, push through this pain, keep going. And for a while it obeyed. But as the years passed, it began to whisper back. At first, I didn't understand the language. A tightness here, a headache there, a strange heaviness after even a short walk. I brushed it off. Just aging, I told myself. Nothing to worry about. But aging isn't the problem. Not listening is. You don't need a medical degree to hear your body. You just need quiet and trust. Here's what I've learned. The body doesn't shout. It whispers. And if we ignore the whispers long enough, they turn into screams. So how do we tune in? For me, it started with a 3-minute ritual. Every day after a walk or light movement, I'd sit down, close my eyes and ask, how do I feel? Really? Sometimes I'd notice my breath was short, or my knees had a pulsing ache. Other times I felt light, clear, energized. The difference wasn't in what I did, it was in how well I noticed the result. Some friends of mine use a simple system. Green, yellow, red. Green, I feel good, ready to move more. Yellow, a little off, maybe ease up today. Red, pain, fatigue, foggy mind. Rest, hydrate, restore. It's not scientific, but it's honest. And sometimes honesty is the most healing thing we can give ourselves. I remember Bill, who's 82. He used to walk hard, fast every day. He never skipped, never questioned, until one day he fainted halfway through his usual route. Low blood pressure, overexertion, dehydration. He called it just a fluke, but when it happened again, he had to listen. Contrast that with Janet, 79, soft-spoken, thoughtful. She keeps a tiny notebook by her bed. Every night she writes 2 lines. What did my body feel today? What do I need tomorrow? She moves slower than Bill ever did, but she hasn't had a fall in 5 years. Her energy is steady, her eyes are calm. She says, I treat my body like a partner now. We check in every day. And honestly, that's wisdom. That's what we all deserve to do, because your body isn't your enemy. It's not trying to betray you, it's trying to protect you. Even when it hurts, that hurt is a message. A gentle knock on the door that says, hey, could we do this a little differently? Now, some people might say, well, if I stop when I feel tired, I'll never get stronger. Or, isn't listening to the body just an excuse to do less? But here's the nuance. Listening doesn't mean quitting. It means adjusting. It means giving your body what it needs, not what your ego demands. There's strength in that, and courage too, because anyone can push, but it takes real awareness to pause, to ask, is this the best choice for me today? To say yes or no, not from fear, but from understanding. I believe this. The older we get, the more our body becomes a mirror. It reflects how we live, how we rest, how we move, and most of all, how we listen. So let today be a new kind of practice. Not just steps or stretches, but silence. 3 minutes of stillness. One question, what are you telling me today, body? Then listen, not with judgment, with kindness. You might be surprised at what you hear. And before we move into our final thoughts, take a moment right now. Place a hand over your heart. Breathe in. Ask that question just once. It could change everything. Before we wrap up, take a moment to truly reflect, not just on what you've heard, but on what your body has been quietly telling you, perhaps for weeks or years. Maybe you've pushed yourself because you believed you had to. Maybe you've ignored that little ache, the tired mornings, the restless sleep. thinking this is just what aging feels like. But aging doesn't have to be a slow surrender. It can be a graceful adjustment. Because today isn't about giving up movement. It's about choosing the kind that honors you, right where you are. You've learned that walking too much or too hard after 70 might not be helping. You've discovered that pain, fatigue, and even emotional flatness aren't just signs of getting old. They're signs of misalignment. And most importantly, you've been reminded that movement can still be joyful when it's done in partnership with your body. So what now? Start small. Maybe today you take 2 shorter walks instead of 1 long one. Maybe you sit down after and ask yourself, how did that feel? Maybe you stretch, breathe, rest without guilt. Maybe you skip the step counter and follow your own rhythm instead. Because you are not a number. You are not a chart. You are not anyone else's version of what healthy aging should look like. You are you, alive, changing, learning. And if there's one thing I hope this conversation has given you, it's not just information, it's permission. Permission to trust yourself again, to move in a way that feels like love, not punishment. If this message spoke to you, take a moment to like this video and subscribe. But more than that, share it with someone who might need this reminder today. And in the comments, tell me this. What's one small change you're ready to make, starting now? Because aging well isn't a goal, it's a relationship with your body, your breath, your truth. And you, my friend, are already on the path.